Like and subscribe on the way in the door, people. Today, welcome back to Mondays in the 90s. And today we are going to be talking about Scarface, Willie D, Bushwick Bill, the Geto Boys in the 90s. Again, if you've been following my 90s series, you've probably heard me say before that hip-hop in the 90s, to me, was the greatest decade for hip-hop in the 90s. For hip-hop. Like I said, the 90s was a time where it wasn't cool to sound like somebody else. If you were a producer, it was not cool to make beats like somebody else. It was a very diverse time in hip-hop. Like I said, somebody was recently commenting on one of these female rappers, maybe Sexy Red or somebody, and just commenting on, how sexualized her content is or her music is or whatnot. And somebody in the comments said something to the effect of, this is nothing new. Music has always had that element. And while this is true, the difference is that wasn't the only element. Nowadays, I dare you to name me a female rapper who is not playing on that element almost exclusively, the over-sexualization element. Back in the 90s, we definitely had our female artists who were just that. But like I said, that wasn't the only thing. So while you could find, your sexualized rap, whether you're talking about Lil' Kim or you're talking about Luke Skywalker and the 2 Live Crew, but you also had your positive rap like Common, like Dead Prayers, like the Fugees. And then you had your NWAs who bought in or is credited for bringing in the gangster rap, and your Tupacs and your Biggies and just such a variety. And we haven't even started talking about the rappers whose career didn't last that long, who the one-hit wonders. It was such crucial conflict. Tracy Lee, Craig Mack, so many artists who contributed to the art form that maybe just didn't last that long. But I would classify the Geto Boys as kind of like the NWA of the South. I would say the NWA of the South. However, to me, the Geto Boys were deeper than the NWA. It's like, while you could credit NWA for kind of really bringing the harsher realities of the street to record, to the studio and recording it and putting it out there for the masses to hear, I would say the Geto Boys really delivered both sides of the game. They talked about the violence, but they also talked about the consequence of the violence. Not only the consequence of the violence, but just the consequence of being in that lifestyle, period. One of their most famous songs to me is a tale of just that. My mind's playing tricks on me. And I sit alone in my 4-corner room staring at candles. At night I can't sleep. I toss and turn, candlesticks in the dark, vision some bodies being burned. That whole song to me was just, for the most part, covering angles of the paranoia that you go through when you're living that kind of lifestyle. Again, I've done many different things in my life, and there was definitely a time period in my life to where I could relate to that song. So, So I think, like I said, to me, the Geto Boys really bought both sides of the game. And not only both sides of the game, to me, well, it's funny because, we didn't know this at the time, but I guess now it's probably common knowledge that Willie D wrote a lot of Bushwick verses. However, despite that, the reason you wouldn't know that is because they all three have very distinct sounds from each other. Scarface doesn't sound like Willie D. And Bushwick doesn't sound like Willie D. Willie D doesn't sound like Scarface. Like, they all had their distinct styles, again, which was, I want to say commonplace on in the 90s, but it was really requirement that you had to have your own sound. Again, it's not like today's rap where as soon as somebody comes out with a hit record, everybody else wants to make a hit record that sounds just like it. How many artists sound like Future or Drake or any number of artists you could point out that just, to me, all sound alike. But yeah, so the Geto Boys, especially to me, for the South, in a lot of ways, I would like to say they are the most legendary group of the South. Now, the most popular worldwide group from the South, that's disputable. And, I wouldn't say they are my favorite group from the South, but definitely one of my favorite groups from the South, for sure. Again, if you've watched enough of my videos, you probably deduce that I am an Outkast fan. Like, that Outkast is probably my favorite group from the South. But, as far as legacy, and to me, a group that really helped make the South respected, was the Geto Boys. And probably my two favorite Geto Boys albums, obviously one has to be We Can't Be Stopped, and that's the one with the famous cover of Bushwick Bill in the hospital. I forgot what happened to his eye. He got shot in the eye. I can't remember if he did it himself or if somebody else did it. But yeah, We Can't Be Stopped and Grip It on That Other Level. Those are probably my two favorite Geto Boys albums. So yeah, to me, the Geto Boys in the 90s, especially if you lived in the South, like the Geto Boys were, legendary as a group and still legendary when they broke apart and kind of started doing their own thing. Now, when they broke apart and started doing their own thing, Scarface really, I think, still maintained that, I would say, almost the same amount of success as he did when they were a group. Scarface had some epic solo albums and, again, respected worldwide, had songs with Tupac, and probably the most famous one with Tupac is Smile. And, man, yeah, that's a great tune. And, I feel like it's not a lot of artists that you hear with Tupac that can kind of match his presence on a track. But, that track felt good. Scarface and Pac together was a good combination. But anyway, so yeah. So for you young kids who are not hip to the Geto Boys, who are not hip to Scarface, Willie D, Bushwick Bill, I would definitely suggest you go check them out because, again, they were a heavy influence on 90s culture, especially in the South. Again, to me, when you say the Geto Boys, to me, that they are Southern royalty. They are who made the South respected, or at least one of the groups that pioneered that. So yeah, check out some Geto Boys, and we gonna figure out what group I'm gonna talk about next, because like I said, I want to get into some of these more obscure groups, but I think we need to hit some of the more important groups first But yeah, like I said, the 90s had such a wide variety of hip hop. Like you young kids just have no idea. And I'm not gonna keep going. But yeah, the 90s was just a fantastic time in hip hop. But anyway, shout out to the Geto Boys. I know Bushwick is no longer with us, but shout out to Scarface. Shout out to Willie D. As a matter of fact, I enjoy watching Willie D's podcast that he has on a pretty regular basis. So shout out to the Geto Boys who helped put the South on the map. Some of the original gangsters of the South, and like I said, I would classify them as kind of like the NWA of the South, except like I said, to me they were deeper because they really covered both sides of the game, not just the spectacular part or not just the violent part, but they also covered those things. Like I said, they covered a lot of stuff that doesn't get talked about. The paranoia, the feelings that go along with losing people. The fact that most real gangsters, move in silent and aren't loud talkers. They really covered more nuances of the game, I would say. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys grew up in that time and are familiar with the Geto Boys, please let me know what you think, what you remember about that group, what you think they contributed to hip hop, their importance in the genre of hip hop. Let me know what you think. You all have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. All right.